Now, before I just tell you what web scraping is and some important issues related to web scraping. Web scraping is the science and art of obtaining data from web pages, also known as HTML pages. In case you don't know what HTML is, we are going to cover it further on in this section. But yes, if you have a web page, any web page like a Wikipedia web page, Google News, or a property site, you can scrape it or extract or retrieve information from it. That does a lot of things for you. You can extract contacts from online directories, monitor social media activities, collect data from e-commerce websites. In this course, I'm not going to cover social media because that's a different kettle of fish, even though it involves web scraping. But yes, we are going to look at things like collecting data from Wikipedia, Amazon, a property website, and then gaining powerful insights using the scrape data. So basically, you can collect data, extract data from from most websites, and then use that for deriving information, and that's what web scraping does. And this is what it, in its basics, at its core, it just involves taking the HTML websites, and all websites are HTML websites, carrying out certain operations that we are going to cover in this course. They are known as web scraping, and then converting the scraped or the extracted data into a final structured data set. And in the final section, we are going to have a go at examining and looking at some very simple examples of how you can use the structured data to derive insights, but that comes much later. Now, there are some very important issues related to web scraping, and that is some of the latest news that data about 500 very recently, about a week ago in 2021, LinkedIn, the professional website, has had 500 million users' data scraped, and these kind of practices are unethical at best and illegal at worst. So yes, again, there have been breaches, and well, this is a data leak, but essentially extracting that kind of information, so much private information, is pretty much against the law in many countries. And yes, web scraping illegal. We are just going to look at some of the web scraping can defend brands and intellectual property, but then in some jurisdictions, certain web scraping or information retrieval activities can be illegal. And what they call like Clubhouse, a new social media platform, again, this has been classified as a leak, but it may have been a simple data scrap. And Facebook has sued 2 companies for data scraping. So the upshot is that en masse web scraping is most likely to get you in trouble, and there are certain websites that you cannot scrape and you must not scrape under any circumstances. Most of Wikipedia, you can scrape Wikipedia, no harm done, but I would recommend, again, Amazon can be scraped, property websites can be scraped, but if you run into any issues while web scraping, first check the terms and conditions of that website and make sure that that's something you can actually scrape, or you run the risk of getting sued like these 2 companies. Canada has asked an AI company to stop scraping citizens' photos because, again, these are privacy issues, so you must be very careful. And if it's a brand new website, you've never encountered it before, I would suggest getting in touch with the site administrator to begin with, and to at least confirm that yes, that's something you can scrape. And if it turns out you can't scrape something at all, I suggest don't push it, because there are legal and ethical concerns, and I strongly recommend, and make sure you know the policies governing the website you are interested in, and make sure you know the law in your own target jurisdiction. But having said that, the examples we cover in this particular course, well, these are easily scraped websites. Some are more complicated than others, but the examples that you encounter, these are things that you can do without running into any hassles. But if you want to do large-scale web scraping or proprietary websites and private websites, at that point I advise caution.